Hi there, favorites. These are 6-inch sponges. That's what I use for all my tall cakes. And get to trimming. I don't have a trimmer. I should get one. I've been meaning to get one for years. I don't have one, and I don't know if I'll ever get one, okay? The tops are so soft, you don't really need to trim them off. I like to give people as much cake as possible, so usually I keep that. And this is how I'd go about doing this. You just go around and round, not really moving the knife, scoring the cake really before you, so that you come back in where you scored the last time, and then you can start to push your knife through and it'll come out on the other side. So I have these boards. They're old, that's why they look beat up, because this is a kitchen and things work in a kitchen. But you don't need to have them. You can use square cake boards or whatever for this next portion. Go in with like a little bit of buttercream here. I feel like a thin layer of buttercream serves as a barrier for whatever runny filling that you're gonna have. Serves as a nice barrier that it doesn't get your sponge all soggy. And vanilla buttercream is just a beautiful pairing with most sponges. And that's it. When I wrap my cakes to cool, I usually keep the baking paper on. So I actually don't need to be working with this, because it can sit on its bum just like that, because there is a layer protecting it from coming into contact with anything that may be on there. Another thin layer. With fillings, I sometimes feel like you can just use your discretion as to what you like in terms of ratio of cream to sponge. Have some buttercream in a piping bag. You can cut this as thick as you want your dam wall to be. I like to have a good amount of filling, but I also don't want my dam to be super thin because it will collapse on me. Two methods here. Some people like to pinch like so to seal that. I just go around. It seals just as well. Okay. With my palette knife like so, come around just to push it back in to straighten it out. I hope you're not dizzy. Then I also just like ever so slightly try to flatten the top. And that's my dam wall, and I'm going to gently lift that with my palette knife and set it aside, and I'm going to repeat this process with the other two. And so here we are. The dams are done. The tops all have their thin layer of buttercream on, and these are all gonna go in the fridge now for about 20 minutes if you would like, or until this is set, and that usually depends on the weather. Or you can pop it in the freezer, which will take some 10 to 20 minutes, again depending on how hot or cold it is out, for your buttercream to set before you fill it. These have been in the fridge, see, firm to touch, nice and hard. That's what we want, okay? And you can scoop your filling in with custard for this one. I think custard so nice and thick. You could use a piping bag, but I would find that to be a little on the wasteful side, seeing how a spoon will work just as well. So you do the dam because this is runnier. I know it looks super firm, and I make it firm on purpose to give us a little bit more structure, and it's just delicious. But it would actually just ooze out of the cake if you didn't have the buttercream. Butter hardens when it's been in the fridge, so it's going to hold its shape and therefore the damn wall a lot better. You can use ganache for your dam. I find that especially when it's super hot in the summer, you can do that. Then I go in with a thin layer, and this acts as my glue for when I pop the lid back on, so to speak. Okay. And then I can press a little bit and it'll ooze out, but don't worry. This is where we are. I'm gonna rest this for about 5 minutes, really, just so it seals properly and I don't have a hard time when I'm trying to stack it. So it's gonna go back in the freezer for another 5 minutes. So remember in the beginning, I told you that I leave my baking paper on. This is usually when I take one of them off, and I usually cut them a little bigger than I should, so my batter doesn't run through, since I use loose bottoms on my pans. That's a bit more accurate, a little bit more. You fold that in half, and then you fold that half again, such that you end up with a quarter like so. And that tip will then be your center. That's how you're going to decide where to poke a hole through your sponge. You make your hole in the center. It's going to make sense in a while. And you do the same for the others. They'll differ in height just a bit. Ideally, they should be the same size, but luckily for us, we know we're not machines, luckily. Then there's the hole that will go perfectly through there. Then we're gonna have our center. And then in we go with our buttercream. I've heard to do this before I dowel the cake. You're essentially treating this like you would a tiered cake, so that it holds the weight of the sponges coming on top. Go in here with your straw. I do 4. This is a 6-inch sponge, remember. I do 4 of these. I just like lean it there, so when I pull it back up, I can see where the buttercream stopped and where to cut. This is a lot easier with the bubble straws, and they're a little bit more thicker, but also the color on them, they usually come in bright colors, or I usually get a pack of just red or black. You can see the second layer, and we go in with our layer of buttercream that would serve as a glue to the next one. I always put the smallest one at the very top. In we go. Pushes the paper back up, and on she goes. Nice. I do not. Oh. I had forgot my, you see, you just go back in, you fix it. Nobody dies. Yet. And there you go. simple stack. Just need to do some trimming so that the sides can be even before you start to ice your cake. But we're good. See, now I've done all the stacking. It's pretty, it's trimmed. Now I have to psych myself up to ganache. Oh, guys, the brain power. Same strength.